How you doing, everybody? I am back from CTN Animation Expo 2015. Um, Last week was crazy with the holiday, and so I didn't get into a recap. And I think it's good to have a little bit of distance from it before you go into it to talk about the experience. So that's what I want to do today. Just kind of go over what it was like, what was there, what I took away from it, and I'm just going to give you guys an overview of how it went. I have gone to CTN twice now. First time was back in 2010, and it's changed a lot. I've heard from some people that it's grown something like 10% every year, so it's a good 50% larger than when I had gone the first time 5 years ago. So the size was really an interesting thing. I being in Minnesota, I don't even have a set of mental capacity to understand an outdoor tent in the wintertime. But it's November, and there was a tent out. There were several tents outside, really comfortable. I mean, the weather was great, um, and it actually wound up being pretty cool. You could go inside, and you can see some of the booths inside, and then go outside, and there was just artists upon artists. They were doing demos there, and the thing that sets CTN apart is I love cosplayers, but there was nobody in costume there. It was all very much professionals, students, and people, in the industry. And so it was very much more an industry-centric, artistic-centric, um, convention, which is kind of nice. It's nice to have a break from sort of the marketing of a show or the marketing of a film or something like that, and really get a good look behind the scenes. And so it was very much like an animation and illustration nerd out kind of weekend, which is cool. I got to reconnect with some old friends. I got to see people I haven't seen in years, and got to meet some new folks. If you follow me on Instagram, I was posting selfies of people because it's not every time you don't just walk down the street and get to meet the director of How to Train Your Dragon. So I was able to shake hands with Dean DeBlois and ask him to take a picture. Super kind, very generous, and humored me. Also met a lot of other really great artists. I'm going to go through some of the books that I got. And this year was all about learning for me, and I've got a webcomic of my own coming up in January, and really wanting to hit the ground running with it, to do it well, and just needed to refresh my resources. A lot of times you kind of hit that peak, of that plateau, and you need to just sort of to refresh. So I picked up Heads by Randy Bishop, which is an amazing little book, and it's just a bunch of heads, but it's some great character design, some great line work and painting, and just really innovative stuff. So loved his work. Got to chat with him a little bit. He's currently running a Kickstarter for a short film called Monomyth. Highly recommend you check that out. You can check that out on Kickstarter. Just look for Monomyth, and he's got some great rewards set up. He's got original art from Disney artists like Corey Loftus and some other, like I think Tom and Tony Bancroft have agreed to chip in and do some original art as rewards for backers. But he's trying to fund a short film, and really great work, great idea. His pitch is really really interesting and really solid. It's the kind of stuff that I totally gravitate towards. So that was a good one. Let's see what else. Oh, I picked this guy up. This is R.M. Winch. I can't remember his first name. I think his initials are R.M. This is called Splinters. All right, and this is a collection of visual development art, and just really cool stuff. So it's thinking through a story, through sets and through props. And if you're interested in visual development and animation, or even if you're just interested in telling your own story, you need to know what the world looks like, not just what the characters look like, but what kind of things would populate the world, and it needs to be consistent. So again, this is kind of a little help for myself as I start to think about that for my story. Just kind of see what others have done, so I don't have to reinvent. What am I going to need? It's just thinking through different sets and really being intentional about what do these places look like. Because if you're just getting into sequentials, my experience has been, if I'm just getting into sequentials for the art, a lot of times I'm worried about telling the story across the page And the thing that slips my mind a lot of times is that visual consistency, that sense of place. So I picked that up because I thought it'd be helpful for that. I also picked up, I get to meet Jake Parker again. He was on my panel at the Denver Comic Con last year, talking about art and education. So I got to meet him again and pick up his Inktober book from last year, which is always just really fun. And I do this thing where I have people sign my favorite drawing, or the one that I find that's my favorite. So I'm going to show this one to you. It's this giant Humvee. So I didn't ask him to sign the cover. I wanted him to sign the piece itself. So super fun. Again, his stuff is a lot different than what I do. His is very, there's so many solid, like, vehicles and forms, and more. I mean, he's known for his robots, and they're amazing. And it pushes me to think a little bit more concretely, a little more mechanically. Not think mechanically, but think about mechanical things a little more creatively, if that makes sense. So that was that. And also, I'm going to wrap with these. I got 3 books left. So you got Vintage Cheeks from Sean Galloway, both editions. And thank you, Sean. Very nice gift. And the thing that is so inspiring about these is you see his stuff online, and a lot of it is very polished, right? And he shares some of the roughs on social media. But I'm trying to find a page here and try to talk at the same time. Sorry. The thing that's really great is you get to see them as a spread, and you get to see these poses and sort of how they're built up, and all the information underneath the final lines, and that's what I'm really interested in. And so, yeah, great books on that one. Vintage Cheeks, if you take a look at that. Two, the design is really nice too. They've got a little golden book with his logo for Table Taffy on there, which is cool. All right, last book I'm really excited about. This is from grizzandnorm.com, and it's 100 Tuesday Tips. If you haven't seen their stuff on Tumblr, they're amazing. And you take a look at, if somebody who's taught art for the last 7-8 years, this kind of thing is priceless. If a larger publisher picked this up and a school would form some sort of deal with them, it would be amazing to have this as a textbook. But I mean, as it most of the time as it goes, everybody's self-taught, and so this is going to be my my main point of reference for them creating poses for my comic coming up next year. So that was the stuff, right, of CTN, and it was really cool. I got to reconnect with a friend, Carlos Baina. He used to be an animator at Pixar, and has since gone on to do other things, and he just funded his first short film, La Noria, which is an animated horror short, and got that funded, I think, over the weekend while we were there, or just prior. He reached his goal. So they're doing full production on it. They got a production blog, and so if you look at La Noria, it's LANORIA, as a short film. It's going to be really interesting to see, because he's got a great sense of storytelling. And probably one of the nicest guys I've met in animation. Not to put anybody else down, but he's just a super genuine guy. First met Carlos in Colorado when I was going to school, and was able to work with Career Services to bring him out to talk about animation, to talk about his work at Pixar at the time, and got to spend some time with him there and go snowboarding and whatnot. So it's good to see Carlos again. Trying to think of other things. I have one more. I have a list that says short films, and that was the one that I was picking up on. Well, Randy Bishop's is the other one to take a look at for sure. Monomyth short film, because the designs that he's got are really, really top notch, and the characters in the story seem really interesting too. So that's something to check out as well. I got a ton of business cards. I gave a ton of business cards away, and it was really cool to see some of your favorite artists that you see on Instagram, and other places, and see their work in person, meet them, shake their hand, just even if it's something as simple as, hey, I follow you on Instagram, I really like your work. That means a lot. It can be. I've been behind the booth before, and it can be a long weekend. It seemed like it was a busy show and everybody got a lot of traffic, but just to be able to connect and say, hey, your work is being seen, it's being well received. I think that's important for any artist to hear. So yeah, it was a great time. Had a little bit of one thing I'll recommend. I don't travel a ton, but I was going from Central Time to Pacific Time, so I was 2 hours difference, and I was eating dinner at a little bit late, like 8 or 9 o'clock on the first night, and it was really 10, 11 o'clock my time, and so I was totally out of it the first night. Just needed to recharge, needed to get more hydrated, and the rest of the weekend was just being more conscious of in a drier climate and all that stuff. And when I used to live in Colorado, you'd get like first couple days were tough to get acclimated, but then it was great, and noticed a little bit of that. So first day I was a little bit starry-eyed and just kind of like overwhelmed by everything, but overall it's always been a good show. If you can go. I was able to see some former students, some like I said, some old friends, meet some new people, have some great conversations, and yeah, it's one of those things where the thing that I think was important to note is that all the major film studios were there, and they were all doing portfolio reviews all weekend, which is really cool. Because you don't always get a foot in the door. You don't always get your work in front of somebody. You send a demo reel off to Pixar, like I did when I was in animation. There's no guarantee that anybody actually saw it, and just sit down at the table and watch these guys. They're showing their portfolio, and to know that at least somebody's getting some eyes on their work is can be reassuring too. And they're giving tips on what to improve, how to do better and be more successful in the future. I got this sense from just kind of watching these things happen that it wasn't necessarily about, it was all the recruiting departments, but it wasn't necessarily about trying to find the next, Disney animator, Pixar animator, or DreamWorks animator. It was more of a service to the industry, to the young up and coming talent, to say this is what we're looking for. And if you can be more direct in it, you can be more successful in getting in the door in the future. So they were taking business cards and they were taking, and they were giving stuff out. But at the same time, it was more, the way I viewed it, and I might be completely wrong, but I viewed it as more of a specific marketing to animators of how to better, to better submit their work, or visual development artists or story artists, whatever they were looking for. So that was my sense on the recruiting end of things. There's just so much to do, and I think that they always have different tiers of tickets. They've got anywhere from a day pass to a 3-day pass to a VIP 3-day pass, and the VIP would be definitely probably useful in some cases. It's gotten bigger. It's a bigger show than it was, but at the same time, it still feels like a small show. If you've ever been to like New York Comic Con or C2E2, or I suppose I've never been to San Diego Comic Con, but I would imagine that would be even more so. Those shows feel really big. I've been to New York Comic Con and it was overwhelming, but this one still feels small, even though there's lines and you got to wait for things. But you meet people and you chat. The two things that stood out to me were that it still feels like a small show. If you're going to splurge for the VIP, might as well get a booth, because you get a VIP kind of included, and it's only like $50 difference. And show some art and meet some people that way. So there's that, and then also the level of talent just walking around was really amazing. You see every once in a while you'll see like a star at one of these bigger comic shows or industry events, but they're usually surrounded by an entourage. And like Dean DeBlois was walking in the hallway by himself, and I was like, Dean, I love your movies and my kids love them. Can I get a picture? And he was just just walking from one event to the next. And I was talking to somebody, and all of a sudden, right up behind him pops, Claire Keane, who did a lot of the visual development for Disney's Tangled, and it was just, people are just right there, and it was really cool. You have to come out of your shell a little bit and be able to say, hey, I'm who I am, and this is what I do. But it's a good training ground for that, because it is so big and it is so large and fast moving that it's, if there's opportunities, you can have a conversation, but at the same time, you may completely mess up somebody's name or say something foolish, but it's a good place to try. They're not going to remember most of the people they shake hands with anyway. So yeah, I saw some comic artists who, at any other show would be set up behind a booth and and doing really well and having a crowd in front of them, like Adam Hughes, and he was just attending the show to see it. It was really cool. So yeah, you got to keep your eyes open. Walking. The one thing at the time that I did wish that I had the VIP pass when I saw Eric Goldberg sitting in the VIP lounge, and be like, it'd be really great to just to say hi to Eric Goldberg and shake his hand. So if you don't know who Eric Goldberg is, seriously, check your industry. Anyway, yeah, so that was C2E2. This has kind of been a wrap up of it. It's been a longer video, but there's a lot to talk about from it. I said C2E2, CTN. It's definitely a show that I would consider going to in the future as an exhibitor, as an artist. The thing that I have learned, though, is this gets into a completely different subject. Maybe I'll talk about that later. Is if you are going to go to an event and table at an event, you need to have stuff to show, and you need to have current stuff to show, and you need to have a variety. And so at this point now, I've got some older things, and I've got some stuff that's not quite published yet. And so I'm kind of in this valley a little bit. And so before I go and start, showing stuff at a show like CTN, I need to refresh on the publishing end of things, just because there's stuff that's in the pipeline. I've got a middle grade novel that's at the printers now and should have proofs in a little bit, but that won't be out till the spring. And so, yeah, so there's stuff happening, but it just needs to come through first. And I'd like to have my webcomic coming up. I'm going to do a video probably next week on that specifically, because I got a lot of good feedback on it. And I think that there are a couple of changes I want to make before saying this is locked down. But it was good to have conversations with people at CTN, actually. I haven't showed much art except for maybe a single panel here and there on Instagram. And to be able to show, I've got 10 spreads, or not 10 spreads, but I've got 5 spreads done. So 10 pages. And I've gotten some feedback from other artists, and some positive, some like, hey, have you thought about this? And so I do want to think about that, because I don't have an editor, but that'll be coming up. I'm hoping in January to release that, so watch the space here, and I'll be talking all about it. But I'll do some more bigger promotional stuff for it, through YouTube and Instagram and anybody else that's paying attention, Facebook as well. So that's coming up, but it's one of those things that I'd like to have that done before I think about doing a bigger show again. So yeah, that's kind of it. If you have any questions about CTN or what the experience was like, or anything in general, feel free to drop me a line at Drew Blom on Twitter. You can connect me on Facebook, but send a note if you can, because I don't know who everybody is on Facebook. But or just drop me an email at drewblom, DREWBLOM @gmail.com. So yeah, we'll talk to you guys next week. See ya.